Next we get to the update on the water service supply area. This is requested by me. And I'll report that on the 24th of January, this body made a unanimous decision. We had deliberated for a significant amount of time over the last 2 years on this particular issue. It took us a great deal of time to get the answers that we needed in order to make a thoughtful decision. We do not do it, how did Mr. Gray say it, without thought, without factual information. We spent 2 years reviewing factual information. We hired a consultant, Mr. Bruce Baker, who had worked with the city of Waukesha on the diversion application before his retirement, and is an excellent resource for us and provides the town great expertise in making our decisions on this particular matter. After our decision on the 24th, I called Eric Ebersberger of Wisconsin DNR, who is our contact, and I also called Mr. Ed Henschel, who is our contact at the city. Mr. Ebersberger and I had a conversation. It was very cordial. I indicated what the decision of the town was, which was a partial inclusion. He indicated he would be looking forward to seeing our motion and our map, and I mailed that to him. Part of our conversation was how to go about creating the map. And because this is the first time that this particular process has taken place, he didn't have an immediate answer for me, but indicated that he would be reviewing it with his staff and getting back at me with me. Part of the reason for the discussion is because the motion included hiring an engineering firm to provide legal descriptions for the mapping process. But it's also true that Sewer PAC under statutes needs to do that mapping. And there was really no reason potentially for the town of Waukesha to spend a great deal of money to provide legal descriptions and mapping if Sewer PAC was not going to use it, and if simply we could hire our staff to review Sewer PAC's work for correctness when it's done. And Mr. Ebersberger was going to go back to his staff to determine the best way of going about it and get back to me. I was able to reach Mr. Henschel on Monday. So that was the 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th. And Mr. Henschel and I also had a very cordial conversation and indicated again, he knew obviously because it had been in the newspaper, that we had done a partial inclusion of the town. I asked him what the next process would be because we needed to document our agreement between the city and the town. He indicated that he would prefer their attorney, Attorney Kurt Meitz, to take the first pass at the agreement, since there was already an agreement in effect in place. We had accepted their November 8th letter in totality. There were no changes. We accepted their water amount of 0.55 million gallons, so it'd be 550,000 gallons. The reason I felt comfortable with that number, even though it was a partial inclusion, is because it had been reduced with no explanation from 1.1 million in the earlier discussions. Now we were at exactly half. We were taking out a great deal of land in the town of Waukesha out of the potential service area, but a lot of that land is conservancy land and cannot be built. So there wouldn't have been a great deal of water attributed to those areas in their calculations. So the decisions that were made perfect sense. Mr. Henschel indicated that he would be talking to the city attorney's office and they would be in contact with Mr. De La Mora, and that would be the next step to the process. And so I also personally dropped off a copy of the map, a copy of the motion to Mr. Henschel at the city office, and everybody had their paperwork and everybody was pleased. We sent a letter to Mr. Ken Johnson of the DNR, and I memorialized the conversations in an email to both Mr. Henschel, Mr. Ebersberger, and the town board, and of course the clerk's staff and everyone else. Before we had our 24th meeting, we met on January 16th for a final closed session on this particular matter. At that time, Mr. Fischer had brought in an engineering firm produced map. It was a very nice map. And a resolution citing motion, using a motion utilizing 2.3.15 in our ordinances to preempt any discussion or other motion at the January 24th meeting. We discussed this with him. We asked if he would create other maps for us since his engineering firm was able to do that. He declined. He wanted to have his map and his resolution be the primary and sole first pass. That resolution included all of the town of Waukesha, included both letters from the city, which conflicted, and included every part of the town. That particular motion did not get a second when it was presented on the 24th. On February 7th, at 1:48 p.m., I received a call from Ed Henschel telling me that they had talked to the DNR and that the DNR thought our motion was flawed because of the number of gallons that we would need to be addressed, and I would be receiving an email on the issue shortly. I questioned Mr. Henschel and I said, is this the only issue that we have? And he said, well, we're not sure we want to pay you the 20 years. But I think we can work through it, but the DNR is concerned about the amount of water. But he was going to be sending me an email to confirm. No email was forthcoming. At 3:02 on February 7th, I received a call from Attorney Hector. In that email, or in that conversation, he had indicated that he had talked to some folks at the town, at the water utility, at Waukesha Water and City, and indicated that there had been some conversations with town board members. At 4:21 p.m. on February 7th, I called Ed Henschel to see where the email was, and he said it was delayed because it was being reviewed by the city attorney, but I should receive it shortly. At 12:51 on the 8th, I called Ed Henschel, and he said there were issues, and that the city attorney was still working on it. At 1:07, I called Ed Henschel again and asked directly about a potential meeting that was held with town officers. And he confirmed that discussions had been held in the interim on a Friday. And I didn't attend a meeting like that at the city between the time that we made a decision. And I'd like to ask if there's anybody here that would like to tell us about a meeting that they had at city offices after the town of Waukesha made its decision on January 24th.
That would be me as one of them, and I'm working on a report. When the report's done, I'll give it to you.
Why don't you provide us a little bit of a report right now?
I have to look at my notes, I don't have them with me. I will work the report and get it to you.
So you were the only person there? I wasn't there.
I'm speaking for myself, Joe.
Mike, you come back from Texas and go to meet with the city last week Friday?
He fell asleep.
No, he didn't. He shook his head no.
No, his eyes are blinking.
So how many people did Mr. Henschel say? 2? Is that what I heard? So that leaves you and the absent Mr. Fischer.
The missing person.
When my report is complete, I will submit it.
I mean, I'm not interested in your report right now. I got some questions. And I
I'm
think
gonna stop right there for 1 second, I just need to switch out the battery.
I can't help but chuckle after your letter went out claiming that there's secret negotiations happening on behalf of the chairwoman, and yet here we find a scenario by which you and Mr. Fisher have undertaken a secret meeting that has apparently triggered a firestorm of activity. We have school board, we have Ms. Fuller, we have the city in several ways, the water utility. I hear Chairwoman say that she had conversation right after our unanimous vote to draw the water service area in the way we did it, after years of discussion, thousands of dollars, and you and Brian take it upon yourself without notifying the board to just, well, let's go have a friendly chat with our friends in the city and see what they have to offer us? I mean, how long was this meeting? Who called this meeting?
Joe, there were no secret discussions, and it was not a secret meeting, or Van Sock would not be aware of it.
Well,
And you
she's
have been-
aware of
you
it
have
after
been-
the fact.
You have been to numerous meetings, and I've asked about them, so has Mr. Fisher. We got told you were working on a report. When it was done, you would submit it. I'm working on a report. When I'm finished, I will submit it.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
so how
There was
long
no
was the
secret.
meeting?
No idea.
Was it 5 minutes? Was it more or less than 5 minutes?
No idea, Joe.
You don't know.
No.
Is it 2 days? Were you there for 2 days? 48 hours
Joe, I
straight?
told you.
They
I will
brought in
submit
lunch.
my report.
Who was there? You're not gonna say.
That's none of your business right now.
It's none of my business.
Right.
As you send emails to Jamie, speaking to her in a negative tone, saying, who are you and who is our vendor, the attorney, to tell me as a supervisor that I can't do this or I'm not entitled to that? Who are you, sir, to tell me as a supervisor that I'm not entitled? Who are you, sir, to tell the residents in this audience that they are not entitled to know exactly who was at a meeting that you went to and sat down and discussed things that affect the town of Waukesha?
Joe, your theatrics are super.
Great,
superb.
send me to the Oscars, I'd love to
The
go.
meeting was
I look good in heels.
called about to find out how many times you and the chairwoman had met with him without the board being aware of it. And it came back, it was 4 different occasions.
Really?
So when I'm done with my report, Joe, I will submit it to you.
4 occasions. Who was at the meeting, Albert?
Joe, I am not answering any more of your questions.
Okay. Who organized it?
Question,
Go ahead, Mike.
Supervisor German, you had indicated you get a report put together.
Mhm.
Will we get it prior to the press and or the city or whoever?
Yes, Mike, I will see to it that you get it.
Prior, like I say, prior to anyone else seeing
Yes,
that
ma'am.
report?
Yes, Mike.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Who was there as official record keeper? Because you'll note that when we met with Five Diamonds, Mr. Kelly, because you would like to say that was a secret meeting, we had his attorney, Tukalski, there. We had the town attorney, Hector De La Mora, there. We had the town planner there. And unlike your meeting, we actually made a phone call to a third supervisor to alert them that that meeting was taking place the day prior. You and Brian just wandered over there all by yourselves on, I would argue, a much more serious issue than whether the lights are gonna be on until 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock and can they play baseball at 6 in the morning. You went there to talk about the water service area.
No, it was never discussed.
You didn't discuss the water
The water
service area.
service area was never discussed, Joe, that was not the topic.
So you talked about donuts, what's your favorite, do you like jelly inside them, or did you talk about the water service area?
How many times,
Hey, we're having a discussion here.
how many times you and the chair
Yes,
have met with these people?
You are not allowed to say out of
And didn't
order.
bring it back
You'll be
to the board.
removed. Please don't come.
End of my conversation with you, Joe, until I do my report.
In light of the fact that our 2 supervisors decided to have a secret meeting, I would like the attorney to research and provide for us appropriate sanction action that the board can take against Supervisors German and Supervisor Fischer,
For what, Joe?
withholding information from the board.
How do you know there's any information?
You just said there's a report forthcoming, and you
I didn't say there'd be anything in the report, did I?
Okay, well, there you have it.
I can hardly believe it. I mean, really?
How
So,
many times had you and Joe been over there?
I think it was twice, and you had a report each time, because we reported it, and guess what? Before we went, we got your permission in one of those closed sessions that you didn't wanna come to, right? So you have always known, nothing has ever been secret. Okay, so who called the meeting?
I have no idea.
You have no idea who called the meeting. Who invited you to the meeting?
It was a casual meeting, there was nothing discussed with the water service.
Who was at the meeting? This is a reasonable question, Mr. German. Who attended the meeting at the city that you attended with Mr. Fisher? Who was at the meeting?
Dan Duchniak.
Dan who? Dan Duchniak. And who else?
Brian Fisher and myself.
Nobody else? The three of you. Try it, Mr. German, because this is documented.
Try
Telling the truth. Try telling the truth.
It is the truth. I told you I will do a report
No,
and get it to
you
the
don't
board.
have, we don't have a reason to wait. You are here, you
There
are a
was nothing-
supervisor.
There was nothing discussed on the water service area.
Who did
Nothing.
you meet with, Mr. German?
Mr. Henschel and Dan.
And you talked about the weather?
No, we talked about how many times you and Joe have met with them.
Okay. And why was that a question or a concern that you had at that time?
I don't feel I'm getting the proper information back there.
Okay. Did you happen to mention to them that you don't have enough information at all and you didn't have enough information on which to make a decision on the water service area?
The water service area was never discussed.
Well,
It was not even a topic. I mean,
It was
you
not
were
a topic.
telling
It was
everybody
not
in
a
this
topic.
room,
Yes.
not even a topic.
It was not a topic.
So you meet with the water utility and the city administrator a week after we make a vote on the water service area. You go there and ask the question, how many times did you meet with Joe and Angie? And the water service area is not a topic. How many times you meet with Joe and Angie at the coffee shop? How many times you meet with Joe and Angie at Five Diamonds
Joe, your
baseball
three-
field?
three
Where is
advocates are
it?
Just amazing.
Well, because you're lying through your teeth.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Okay.
Joe, I will get a report together for you. The water service area was not topic of discussion, period. I'm not lying through my teeth.
Mr. German, nobody's gonna believe that. A week after we
Don't much
met.
care.
Well, but that's not the information that's been provided, okay? You did talk about it. You talked about the fact that you didn't feel as though there was proper engineering drawings. You talked about the discord between the town of Waukesha board members. You talked about the fact that you didn't have enough information on which to make a decision, yet you were here on the 24th. You attended a multitude of meetings in closed session and open, and you never said in front of this body that when you voted unanimously with us for that map, that you didn't have enough information on which to make a decision. And then you and Mr. Fisher went to see Dan Duchniak, who manages the water utility, and Ed Henschel, the administrator, who I was communicating with to provide the board's decision. Is that correct?
The decision that the board made was never discussed, Angie.
I don't know which is more disturbing, the fact that you went to this meeting without our knowledge, subversively, that you have affected potentially the protections that were crafted for 2 years to protect the town of Waukesha, to protect the town of Waukesha residents' tax base. There was absolutely no problem with either Mr. Ebersberger or Mr. Henschel when I communicated with them immediately after the decision. Any changes, any concern has happened since your meeting with Mr. Fisher and Mr. Duchniak and Mr. Henschel. That's a pretty direct parallel.
Not true.
And those facts are true. That's when the problem started.
The
You can
problem
just,
started the day after our decision.
how do you know that?
It was in the newspaper.
Oh, that would be Mr. Gray, saying, gee whiz, didn't know that was gonna happen, right?
So the problem started the day after our decision.
Not with the city?
Angie, there was no discussion of the water service area or the decisions the board made.
Then what did
Leave it
you-
at that, I will do my report.
Then what did you talk
I
about?
will do my report.
No,
and get it to you. No.
we are asking for your report, this is on the agenda, and we'd like the report now. What, you don't, you either know what you discussed or you didn't. Why are you not willing to reveal your discussion? Do you have to confer with Mr. Fisher first, or what?
No, I want verification from other people as to how many times you and Joe were at these meetings without knowledge of the rest of the board. That is why I was there.
What is your report? How long were you at the meeting?
8, 10 minutes?
8, 10 minutes, you were there 8 to 10 minutes.
I know, point of order, that's it. I will do a report and get it to the board.
Anything else you'd like to tell us about the meeting?
Nope.
You sure? Go ahead, Mr. Laska.
What will the title of this report be?
Yeah, let's hear it. What's the timing? When you, because you're gonna be here from 8:30 to 4:30 all next week, so when will the report be done?
It's gonna take a while to work on the report then, isn't it?
You know, Mr. German, your disingenuous way of dealing with us is really disturbing. And you know, the difficulty in all this is, despite all of the distractions over the last 2 years, we have done a very good job here at the town of Waukesha protecting the taxpayers. And your antics in a number of issues have really gotten us into hot water, but this is the biggest one. The rest of them we were able to get ourselves out of. I'm not sure we're going to be able to correct the damage on this one.
My antics have gotten down into hot water. Example,
It would be not having a snowplow contractor October 1st, but it's not on the agenda. So, let's, sanctions, what was your motion, Mr.? Was there a
Just-
motion, or was there a?
I'd just like to get some directive from
We don't have, well, no, we do have, the agenda just has discussion of possible action and update on the water service supply area.
This would be under our referrals and concerns, and can certainly be handled at the next meeting. And definitely under referrals and concerns, he can provide that there be a report, so that it's
Well,
on the
I
next
could ask
agenda.
at any time, I can ask for legal advice.
You
And
can.
Just asking, and I'm sure that will take you some time to dig up. You're not a walking Rolodex of that information.
The question that we have now, since we don't have good information as to what was discussed at the meeting, that we can properly understand why the reaction of the city, because this is the city's reaction, no one else's, it's difficult to determine the best course to chart. But I think we made a good decision here on January 24th. I think it was a thought-out decision at that time, and I continue to stand by it. There are people who spoke this evening about the water service area and how, I don't know, were foolish used perhaps, that we were. Talked about property that would need to be developed with city sewer and water, which means annexation to the city. So this is exactly the discussion. If we provide the area, the entire area of the town of Waukesha, it provides that entire area available for annexation. When we were brought into office, a big part of what people talked about was protecting our borders and protecting our water. The particular agreement that was crafted, that was agreed to and voted on, that was supported by the city and the DNR, was crafted and done January 24th, and was in the process of being documented. We need to get back to that point, and I'm hoping that we can get back to that point at this point in time, given the circumstances. I feel we have a binding agreement with the November 8th letter. There is nothing in that document that indicates that a water service area was defined at that point in time. The amount of water could be in question, and I think should be verified by the DNR's review, given that we have now in the last, 48 hours, heard that it was 550,000 gallons, 1.1 million gallons, 1.41 million gallons, and 1.46 million gallons. So it's somewhere between those numbers. And we are the only community of the two others, I believe, that are in the potential water service area request that have made any request for firm allocation of water. The others have simply said, sure, we'll be in, but have not provided that waters are set aside for the town residents at the time that they may need them. It's a very important component, because if those waters are not set aside and reserved, even if the town residents were to need them 5, 10, or 20 years from now, and that allocation had been used by the city and was not reserved for the town, even though you were in the water service area, you would not have access to the water, because there's a limited amount of water that's going to be provided through the Lake Michigan diversion application. So this is not an issue that we should leave to a future day. This is a decision that we should allow the DNR to provide verification that the amount of water that was designated by the city, the most recent being 0.55, is adequate for the area that we're talking about. And my suggestion would be that we reaffirm to the city of Waukesha our belief and understanding that they will stand behind the commitment that they made to us in a letter dated November 8th, 2012, that we will ask the DNR to verify the appropriate allocation for the map as presently constituted, and that we respectfully request them to continue on their process that they committed to, is to provide a document to us memorializing that. We can do that as far as a motion goes. We can do that through a letter. We should probably include council at some point to review correspondence from here on out because of the circumstances.
If I heard you right, you're requesting that we authorize a letter be issued that reaffirms the vote that this body took on January 24th and requests that the process, DNR informing SewerPAC that they should get busy drawing the map, that process commence. Did I hear that right? So moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
I guess I need my microphone on. Is there a second?
Repeat the motion, please.
The motion is that the Town of Waukesha Town Board authorizes Angie Van Sock and council to direct a letter to DNR informing them that they should commence with directing SewerPAC to delineate on the map the water service area as described by the Town of Waukesha Town Board.
And request the DNR for review of the water.
Yes, and that the DNR review the water supply allocation.
Is there a second to that motion? One more time, Mike. One more time, Mike. Do you second the motion?
Second.
Thank you. That was on our end. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Let's do a roll call vote on this, Jamie, please.
Chairman Van Sock,
Yes.
Supervisor Bansky,
Yes.
Supervisor German,
Yes.
Supervisor Laska.
Yes.
Referrals and concerns.